Hi, today I'm going to be showing you cuttings of banyan tree which I rooted in water. So let's have a closer look at this. These two cuttings were taken about 45 days ago, and this one sprouted its first root in just 13 days after putting in water, and this one took around close to 18 to 20 days. And they were just kept in plain water, no rooting hormones were used. The tap water was changed every 2 to 3 days. And compared to my experience with Ficus religiosa and Ficus racemosa, this growth has been very slow. It has taken 45 days to just get this much density of roots. So I'm not very impressed with the speed, but I know this is also working in water. These plants can be rooted easily in water. The reason for this red tape was to just keep this plant upright and in the center. So I wanted the roots, the stem to be centered like this so that the roots spread out radially. If that support is not provided, what happens is it rests like this and the roots don't have good shape and structure and a distribution. So that's how it looks. It's kind of similar to my experience with other ficus, but it's comparatively slow. Now it's time to prune these roots. The ones that are touching the edge of the glass, they need to be cut off, and that would trigger the growth of the side branches or side roots rather, and thus making the whole root mass more dense. If I don't do that, these roots will continue to grow and keep circling around. So I have a long mass which is wasted upon pruning, and I could use the same time to grow a more dense mass by cutting it right now and have smaller roots in a small volume. So these set of cuttings, these 3 cuttings were taken very recently, just a few days old. And I had initially cut the leaves like this, and I hated this kind of a shape, so I just trimmed it down to look like a small tiny leaf. Let's lay them out here, and this is the second one, and that's the third. So if this one sprouts, it's going to be a super tiny banyan tree, and you can almost see the white dots beginning to appear on all of them. This one hasn't, but these two certainly have those white dots. So that's a good sign. That means the roots will sprout pretty soon. 2 of my cuttings have spider mite infestation. So I cleaned the leaves just a few days back with neem oil mixed with water, and I can still see some powdery residue on the stem. So these indicate again the spider mite issue. So they even spread to the, it's not just the leaves that they attack, it even attacks this, I think it's called the stalk. So even these have to be cleaned. So I'm going to be brushing it off with water and again spray neem leaf on this, neem oil. And this was a costly mistake because I initially was confused whether it is malnutrition or spider mite. And I don't like using neem oil because it stinks. So I kind of delayed this whole treatment process and have begun to realize that it was not malnutrition, it was spider mite all the time, and they have spread to a lot of other plants too. So now I'm on a complete war against spider mites. Getting successful roots in water is one thing, and getting them to convert to a solid medium is another. So you might lose some of the plants there, or they might take more time to get used to this. So I think coco peat is a better medium. Let me also show you some failures which I get. It's not success all the time. So this is a cutting of a Ficus racemosa or a cluster fig tree, and it was green when I had initially put in water. It had rooted nicely in water, and then it was moved to coarse sand, and unfortunately it didn't do very well there. Now there are 2 culprits. One is the sand isn't the best medium to move into right away. I think coco peat offers better results, and I'm experiencing them already here in this particular case. And the second reason is the new leaves which had sprouted, they all died because of spider mite infestation. So it's probably a combination of the two, and hence now these are all planted, all future cuttings of this are going into. So when I move from water to solid medium, I would first get them into coco peat, let them readapt to a solid medium, and once they are established here, I would go into a mix of sand and soil. And these leaves are currently being treated for spider mite infestation. I'm spraying neem oil mixed with water, and this has to be done I think every 2 or 3 days. And in fact, after I spray them, I rub each leaf with my finger just to make sure it's all uniformly coated and whatever is on the surface is also cleaned off. Water rooting is highly recommended for people who think they don't have a green thumb. So this will cure all your green thumb issues. You just take a cutting, put it in water, keep changing the water every few days, and clean the container once in a while if you see it is getting dirty. Make sure there is no algae growth, and within 2 weeks time you should be seeing new roots coming. It doesn't matter what your experience or knowledge is, just put it in water and let the plant do its thing. You just keep changing the water, nothing else. So success and failure is part of the journey. Enjoy the process, don't be afraid of the failures. And in fact, I like it when a lot of experts post their failures. That helps me learn from it and also tells me that I am not the only one having this problem. Even those guys with so much experience and knowledge still end up with dead plants or plants in bad health. And it's okay. You just learn from it and move on. This banyan tree started out as a cutting of a cutting, and initially it was kept in a smaller container. And I think the medium was coco peat, and later it was repotted into this tiny colander. And here the mix is 1 part soil, 1 part coarse filtered sand, and 1 part coco peat. Now the stones are basically kept to give support to the trunk. So when it was planted, the roots are shaky, and instead of wiring down things, I prefer rocks. Plus it also gives weight to the pot. So this tree is basically kept on my front balcony, getting half day sunlight, and the conditions are windy. And despite so many holes on the pot, I water this twice a day, and that's about it. Plus keeping the rocks on top also reduces the surface area for evaporation. So you might want to cover this with something, either a cloth or a plastic sheet or moss. When you use colander as a pot, always make sure it is resting on some stone or tile. It is elevated from the ground. It should not be kept like this on a flat surface. That is kind of defeating the basic purpose. You need the bottom to have air contact and as well as air pruning. So when the roots come out of the holes and make contact with the air, you want them to die so that the back branching can begin. I have noticed when you keep it like this, the roots come out and they just start circling below that. They don't want to come out beyond the area of the pot, so they stay underneath that, and that is not helping the purpose of using a pot like this. So you can grow cuttings of banyan tree in sand, soil or a solid medium or in water. Water gives me more control, and especially if the cuttings are smaller. For bigger cuttings I prefer using filtered sand or even coco peat. The choice is up to you, but all ficus plants basically seem to, in my experience, the ones I have tried, they seem to root easily in water. And my success rate is far higher in water. Of course, I still do lose plants in water too. Not all of them will root, but that portion is very few, very few. So this banyan tree is around 9 months old. I collected it as a cutting. There were no roots, no leaves, and just these main trunks, 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one here. So just 4 trunks. No, none of these branches were there. These are all new. They're currently having spider mite infestation again. So I just mix sorry I mix neem oil in water, warm water, and just give it a vigorous shake to mix it up, because the oil and water they stay separate, so you want them to mix nicely. I avoid mixing any soap or detergent because that damages the leaf. Trust me, I've had bad experiences with those and lost plants. Yeah, I don't have a turntable, so you'll have to manage with this. That's kind of how it looks. So initially this was potted into cocoa peat or sand, I'm not sure which one. It was in a Coke bottle, something like this, and from there it was moved to a colander that looks like this, and unfortunately my maid knocked down that pot, and by then I had acquired this kind of a colander which has the shape of a bonsai pot also. So I said this is a good candidate to try out. And this was the first sorry, this is the first colander pot to be used, and it looks very nice in this. So this has plenty of options for drainage, aeration and air pruning also. Now these stone slabs have been kept to prevent or slow down the evaporation of water, because if this whole surface is exposed, you have, the water evaporates pretty fast. So you might want to keep it covered with moss or a wet cloth or some material that stops. Even plastic packet is fine. So once the roots have established completely, these will be removed. I plan to have some other smaller plants or moss. But moss requires very moist atmosphere or very moist conditions, which tend to be difficult in this dry climate of Hyderabad. The summer temperatures reach here up to I think 43 degrees. This year was the highest in a long time. So every time I prune these branches, those cuttings are put into water. They have yet to be wired. I admit I am just a bonsai enthusiast. I haven't reached to the styling part yet. I am still struggling with the survival stage. To keep them insect free, pest free, that is the number one challenge. You can get a pot, put some solid medium and give some fertilizer, and they will do what they are supposed to do. That is okay. The problem is when the pests start coming. Mealy bugs are okay, you can visibly see it and remove them and just take care of the eggs. So your problem is solved at that stage itself. Mealy bug caterpillars don't really affect these kind of plants. I have not seen caterpillars on them. So these ugly scars of the way I've cut, they need to be treated sometime in the future. So most probably I need access to some power tools so I can carve these out. Because these are very hard, there's nothing much I can do with the current set of tools. I need to have power tools, drilling tools. So let's figure out that later. For now it stays as it is. These branches need to be wired soon. I've been delaying this wiring process. And with ficus you have to be very careful, they grow pretty fast. So your wiring has to be redone in a few months' time. Else they will start leaving scars that take a long time to heal. It's not as quick as you think it is. And this bonsai or this tree reflects my whole idea of instant bonsai. I didn't wait for years to grow this in ground to gain this trunk thickness. It has all the natural features of age. The unevenness of the trunk, the taper is good, the natural wrinkles on the bark of the tree. So all the aging was there, I just cut it and potted it, and that's called instant bonsai. You look for a trunk of your desired thickness and just cut it and bring it home. Let the roots grow. So once the root development is happening below the soil and is invisible to you, what is visible is the trunk, and that's, if it looks like a bonsai, then so be it. The root development is far easier. I would say 1 to 2 months is enough, for the plant to get established. But the ramification of the branches, these take time, and these can take months or even years. So this is what is going to slow down the whole process. When this colander pot is not resting flat on the ground, there is a gap between the ground and the pot. It is resting on tiles like this. So the colander pot was resting on these 4 ceramic tiles. They are broken pieces which I collected. If you don't have tiles, you could use, say, plastic caps. These are also just as fine. I mean, you don't need the holes. These were meant to be used as a pot for miniature plants. So anything that raises the surface a bit from the ground, that is good enough. You want the air to get in from the base of the pot. You want the roots to come out hanging into the air and die, and then start back branching. So that's the benefit of air pruning. You don't want that pot to be resting flat on this, because that's just going to block that much air circulation, and the roots will just start, they might come out of the pot, but they will continue their circling activity below the pot, so they don't die. So you want them to die, and if they don't die, you just periodically lift the pot and cut it. It's no big deal.